The 5-minute morning routine to reset your metabolism after 60.
How you start the first 30 minutes of your day determines how much fat you burn for the next 12 hours. After 60, metabolism no longer responds to willpower or calorie cutting. It responds to signals. And the strongest signals your body receives all day are the ones you send it in the morning. Today, I'm going to show you a simple 5-minute morning routine that helps reset metabolism after 60, not through supplements or extreme exercise, but by working with aging biology instead of against it.
Why mornings matter more after 60. How you start your day after the age of 60 matters far more than most people realize. This is not motivational language, and it is not a wellness trend. It is a biological reality grounded in how aging physiology works. The first signals your body receives in the morning determine how your metabolism behaves for the next 12 hours, sometimes longer. For much of adult life, metabolism is flexible. You can skip breakfast, rush through the morning, drink coffee on an empty stomach, and your body adjusts. After 60, that flexibility fades. The body becomes more protective, more cautious, and more sensitive to stress signals. It begins to prioritize survival over fat burning, preservation over performance. This is why so many older adults feel that their metabolism has slowed or stopped working, even though they are eating less and trying harder than ever. What is really happening is not failure, it is miscommunication. Metabolism after 60 is no longer driven primarily by calories. It is driven by signals, signals of safety or threat, signals of nourishment or scarcity, signals of movement or decline. And the most powerful signals are sent in the morning when hormones are naturally resetting and the nervous system is deciding what kind of day it is preparing for. One of the most important hormones involved in this process is cortisol. Cortisol is often misunderstood as simply a stress hormone, but its primary role is energy regulation. In the morning, cortisol naturally rises to help you wake up and mobilize energy. That rise is healthy when it is brief and controlled. The problem occurs when cortisol spikes too high or stays elevated too long. After 60, the brain becomes more sensitive to stress, and cortisol regulation becomes less precise. A rushed, chaotic, underfueled morning can lock cortisol into a high state that persists for hours. When cortisol remains elevated, the body does not burn fat. It protects it. Fat loss is biologically incompatible with perceived stress. This is why starting the day in a stressed, fasted, or undernourished state often leads to increased fat storage, unstable blood sugar, fatigue, and cravings later in the day. Another key factor is muscle. Muscle is the engine of metabolism, and after 60, muscle requires daily reassurance that it is still needed. Without early signals of protein and movement, the body interprets the day as one in which muscle can be broken down for energy rather than preserved for function. This contributes to sarcopenia, slower metabolism, and declining strength over time. This is why mornings matter so much. You are not simply waking up, you are programming the day. You are telling your body whether it is safe to release energy or necessary to conserve it, whether muscle is required or expendable, whether fat should be burned or stored. The goal of this video is not to add more tasks to your life. It is to simplify your mornings into a short, biologically aligned routine that sends the right signals early. A routine that lowers unnecessary stress, stabilizes hormones, supports muscle, and allows metabolism to function as it was designed to function at this stage of life. Over the next sections, I will walk you through a simple 5-minute morning protocol that is grounded in geriatric medicine and aging physiology. It does not require supplements, extreme exercise, or rigid discipline. It requires understanding what your body needs now, not what it needed decades ago. This is where metabolic change after 60 actually begins.
Metabolism is a daily reset, not a daily battle.
One of the most damaging beliefs older adults carry is the idea that metabolism is something you must fight every day. That belief leads to restriction, frustration, and eventually resignation. From a medical perspective, this framing is incorrect, especially after 60. Metabolism is not a fixed engine that breaks down with age. It is a responsive system that resets itself every day based on the signals it receives. After 60, the body becomes less tolerant of mixed or conflicting signals. When it senses stress, undernourishment, or instability, it shifts into a conservation mode. In that state, fat loss is blocked, muscle is broken down, and energy is preserved at all costs. This is not stubbornness, it is survival biology. In younger adults, the body can tolerate long periods of inconsistency. Skipped meals, intense workouts, poor sleep, and high stress can be buffered. In older adults, those same behaviors send a clear message that resources are uncertain. The body responds by slowing metabolic processes and increasing fat storage efficiency. This is why many people over 60 feel as though they are doing everything right and getting worse results. The key shift is understanding that metabolism after 60 is not improved by doing more. It is improved by doing the right things at the right time. The morning is the most important window because it is when the nervous system and endocrine system are deciding how to allocate energy for the day. This is when cortisol rhythm is set. This is when insulin sensitivity is most malleable. This is when muscle tissue is deciding whether it will be preserved or broken down. If the morning begins with stress, fasting, and inactivity, the body interprets the environment as hostile. Cortisol rises and stays elevated. Blood sugar becomes less stable, muscle protein breakdown increases, and fat burning shuts down. If the morning begins with calm, nourishment, and gentle activation, the body interprets safety. Cortisol rises appropriately and then falls. Insulin sensitivity improves. Muscle preservation pathways activate. Fat becomes accessible as a fuel source. This is what it means to reset metabolism rather than battle it. Resetting metabolism does not require perfection, it requires consistency. The body responds more to repeated signals than intensity. A short routine done every morning is far more effective than sporadic bursts of effort followed by exhaustion or restriction. From a clinical standpoint, this approach aligns with how aging systems actually function. The nervous system becomes more dominant with age. Hormonal fluctuations have a larger impact. Recovery capacity narrows. Precision matters more than volume. This is why a 5-minute routine can have such a powerful effect. It is not the duration that matters, it is the timing and the message. You are telling the body that energy is available, stress is manageable, and muscle is still required. When those messages are received early, the body behaves differently for the rest of the day. Appetite becomes more regulated. Energy becomes steadier. Cravings decrease. Movement feels easier. Fat loss becomes possible without force. Metabolism after 60 does not need to be forced. It needs to be reassured. In the next sections, I will break down the 3 specific morning signals that accomplish this reset. Each one is simple. Each one is grounded in medical physiology, and together they create an environment in which your metabolism can function as it was designed to, without punishment, without extremes, and without fighting your body.
The first morning signal: lower stress before you add stimulation.
The first and most important signal you send your body in the morning has nothing to do with food or exercise. It has to do with stress regulation. This is critical to understand because after 60, the nervous system becomes far more influential over metabolism than willpower or calorie intake. When you wake up, your body naturally releases cortisol. This is normal and necessary. Cortisol helps mobilize energy, raise blood pressure slightly, and bring you into an alert state. The problem is not cortisol itself. The problem is excessive or prolonged cortisol, which is extremely common in older adults. After 60, the brain becomes more sensitive to perceived stress. Loud alarms, rushing, checking the phone immediately, worrying thoughts, dehydration, or caffeine on an empty stomach can all amplify the morning cortisol response. When this happens, Cortisol does not peak and fall as it should. It stays elevated. And when cortisol stays elevated, fat burning is suppressed for hours. This point cannot be overstated. A stressed morning creates a fat-storing day. High cortisol signals the body that the environment is unsafe. In response, the body conserves energy. It holds on to fat. It breaks down muscle for quick fuel. Blood sugar becomes unstable. Appetite regulation worsens. None of this is a failure of discipline. It is a predictable biological response. This is why the first step in resetting metabolism after 60 is to lower stress before adding stimulation. This does not require meditation, long routines, or special equipment. It requires 1 to 2 minutes of intentional, calming input to the nervous system. Slow nasal breathing is one of the most effective tools. A technique known as the cyclic sigh, 2 short nasal inhales followed by a long, slow exhale, has been shown to rapidly reduce sympathetic nervous system activity. Just 2 or 3 rounds can measurably lower cortisol signaling. Natural light exposure is another powerful regulator. Standing near a window or stepping outside briefly tells the brain that it is daytime, helping align circadian rhythm. This improves cortisol timing and insulin sensitivity later in the day. This is not about exercise, it is about orientation and reassurance. The important point here is timing. These calming signals must come before coffee, before news, before emails, and before rushing. Once cortisol is elevated, it is much harder to bring down. But when the morning begins calmly, the entire hormonal cascade that follows is different. Clinically, this step alone often improves energy and appetite regulation within days. Patients report fewer cravings, steadier mornings, and less fatigue later in the day. This happens because the body is no longer operating under perceived threat. Lowering stress early does not make you passive, it makes you metabolically responsive. This is the foundation. If this signal is skipped, the next steps are far less effective. But when stress is reduced first, the body becomes receptive to nourishment and movement. Muscle preservation improves. Fat becomes accessible as fuel. Remember this principle: calm first, stimulate second. In the next section, we will build on this foundation by introducing the second morning signal, one that directly activates muscle and metabolism in a way that aging bodies can still respond to powerfully.
The second morning signal: protein as a metabolic switch.
Once stress has been lowered and the nervous system has received a signal of safety, the next most important instruction you give your body in the morning is nutrition, specifically protein. After 60, protein in the morning is not optional. It is one of the strongest metabolic signals you can provide. For much of adult life, breakfast protein is treated as a preference. Coffee may replace food. A light carbohydrate-based breakfast may feel sufficient. After 60, this approach quietly accelerates muscle loss and metabolic slowdown. The reason is a process called anabolic resistance. As we age, muscle tissue becomes less responsive to protein. In younger adults, small amounts of protein are enough to stimulate muscle repair. After 60, that same signal is too weak. Muscle remains in a breakdown state unless a stronger protein signal is delivered. This is why the amount and timing of protein matters far more than most people realize. Clinical research consistently shows that aging muscle requires approximately 25 to 35 grams of high-quality protein per meal to activate muscle protein synthesis. Anything below that threshold often fails to turn muscle repair on. This is especially true in the morning, when muscle has been in a fasting, breakdown-prone state overnight. When the first meal of the day lacks protein, muscle breakdown continues unchecked. Cortisol remains elevated, blood sugar becomes more unstable, fat burning remains suppressed. Over time, this contributes to sarcopenia, fatigue, and fat gain. By contrast, providing adequate protein early does several important things at once. First, protein suppresses excessive cortisol. Unlike carbohydrates alone, protein signals nourishment and stability. This helps prevent stress-driven fat storage later in the day. Second, protein activates muscle preservation pathways. Muscle is the engine of metabolism. When muscle receives a clear signal that it is needed and supported, resting metabolic rate stabilizes. Third, protein improves blood sugar control. Muscle tissue absorbs glucose more efficiently when protein is present, reducing energy crashes and cravings. The quality of protein also matters. Aging muscle responds best to leucine-rich proteins because leucine is a key trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Foods such as eggs, dairy, fish, poultry, and well-formulated protein supplements provide this signal effectively. This does not require large meals or complicated recipes. It requires intention. One of the most common clinical mistakes I see is older adults concentrating protein at dinner while underconsuming it at breakfast and lunch. This pattern leaves muscle understimulated for most of the day. Muscle does not catch up later, it responds meal by meal. That is why the morning protein signal is so powerful. It sets the tone for muscle balance for the entire day. This is not about overeating, it is about adequate signaling. A protein-focused breakfast does not slow fat loss, it enables it by preserving the tissue that burns fat. Patients who implement this step often notice improvements within weeks. Strength stabilizes, hunger becomes more predictable, energy is steadier, and fat loss becomes possible without aggressive restriction. Remember this principle: protein in the morning is not fuel alone, it is instruction. In the next section, we will add the third and final morning signal, a brief, targeted movement that tells the body muscle is still required without exhausting it or raising stress.
The third morning signal: 10 minutes of muscle activation.
Once stress has been lowered and protein has been introduced, the final morning signal is movement, but not the kind most people think. After 60, the goal of morning movement is not calorie burning, sweating, or endurance. The goal is muscle activation. This distinction matters. For decades, older adults have been told that walking more, doing cardio, or staying busy is enough to maintain strength. From a medical standpoint, that advice is incomplete. Walking is excellent for circulation and joint mobility, but it does not provide the mechanical signal aging muscle needs to stay intact. Muscle tissue requires load. Without it, the body interprets muscle as unnecessary and gradually breaks it down. This is one of the core drivers of sarcopenia. The good news is that the amount of load required to send a use it signal to muscle after 60 is far less than people assume. As little as 5 to 10 minutes of resistance-based movement in the morning can have a powerful metabolic effect when done consistently. This is not exercise for fitness, it is communication with your physiology. When muscles contract against resistance, several important things happen immediately. First, muscle contraction increases glucose uptake independent of insulin. This improves blood sugar control for hours, even in people with insulin resistance or prediabetes. Second, resistance movement sends a signal that muscle tissue is still required for daily function. This shifts the body away from muscle breakdown and toward muscle preservation. Third, brief activation improves neuromuscular coordination, which directly supports balance and reduces fall risk later in the day. The type of movement matters more than intensity. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, or light weights are all effective. The focus should be on large muscle groups, legs, hips, back, chest, and shoulders, because these muscles drive metabolism, posture, and stability. Simple movements such as chair squats, wall push-ups, band rows, or gentle step-backs are sufficient. Slow, controlled movement is preferable to fast or explosive motion. Breathing should remain steady. The goal is activation, not exhaustion. This is important. Exhaustion raises cortisol. If morning movement leaves you depleted, shaky, or short of breath, it is counterproductive. The body interprets that as stress. Stress suppresses fat burning and accelerates muscle loss. Activation, by contrast, reassures the body that it is capable and stable. From a clinical perspective, consistency is far more important than variety. Performing the same small set of movements each morning creates a reliable signal that the body learns to anticipate. Over time, this improves muscle responsiveness to protein and enhances overall metabolic stability. Patients who adopt this practice often report that daily movement feels easier, posture improves, and confidence in balance increases. These changes may seem subtle, but they compound over time and significantly reduce the risk of frailty. This third signal completes the morning reset. Lower stress tells the body it is safe. Protein tells the body it is nourished. Movement tells the body muscle is still needed. When these three signals occur together early in the day, the body behaves differently for the next 12 hours. Fat becomes more accessible as fuel. Muscle breakdown slows. Energy is steadier. Appetite is more regulated. In the next section, we will address why this simple routine often succeeds where dieting and intense exercise fail, and why more effort is not the answer after 60.
Before we go further, let me pause for just a moment. If this information has been helpful to you so far, I encourage you to like this video. It helps ensure that evidence-based senior health information reaches more people who need it. If you are over 60 and want medically grounded guidance focused on strength, metabolism, and long-term independence, I also invite you to subscribe to the channel. This channel exists specifically to help older adults age stronger, leaner, and more informed, without fads or fear-based advice. And if you're comfortable, leave a comment below with your age or your biggest health concern right now. It helps me understand what topics matter most to you, and it allows this community to learn from one another. Now, let's continue. Why this routine works when diets and harder exercise fail.
At this point, many people ask a reasonable question. If resetting metabolism were this simple, why do dieting and exercise plans fail so often after 60? The answer lies in how aging physiology interprets stress, effort, and scarcity. Most traditional weight loss advice is built on a younger metabolic model. It assumes the body responds positively to calorie restriction, longer workouts, and pushing through fatigue. After 60, that assumption no longer holds. The aging body does not interpret restriction as discipline, it interprets it as threat. When calories are chronically reduced, cortisol rises. When workouts are long or exhausting, cortisol rises. When protein is insufficient, muscle breakdown accelerates. These responses are not signs of weakness, they are protective mechanisms designed to preserve life in an environment perceived as unstable. This is why so many older adults find themselves stuck in a frustrating cycle. They eat less, exercise more, and instead of becoming leaner and stronger, they feel weaker, gain abdominal fat, and lose stamina. From a medical standpoint, this is not a failure of effort. It is a mismatch between strategy and biology. The 5-minute morning routine works because it reverses the signal profile the body receives. Instead of starting the day with scarcity, it begins with reassurance. Instead of stressing the nervous system, it calms it. Instead of breaking down muscle, it protects it. Instead of forcing fat loss, it creates the conditions under which fat loss is allowed. Lowering stress first prevents excessive cortisol from locking the body into conservation mode. Providing protein early tells the body that building blocks are available, reducing the need to break down muscle for energy. Activating muscle briefly confirms that strength and function are still required. Together, these signals tell the body that it can afford to release stored energy rather than hoard it. This is why the effects of this routine extend far beyond the morning. Blood sugar handling improves for hours, appetite becomes more predictable, cravings diminish, energy levels stabilize. Many people notice they naturally eat more appropriately throughout the day without conscious restriction. Importantly, this routine respects recovery capacity, which narrows with age. The goal is not to push limits, but to preserve reserves.
When reserves are protected, resilience increases, illness recovery improves, balance improves, strength stabilizes. From a clinical perspective, this approach aligns with what we see repeatedly in geriatric medicine. Patients who stop fighting their bodies and start signaling safety make more progress than those who double down on restriction and intensity. This routine also works because it is sustainable. It does not require motivation peaks or perfect adherence. It requires consistency. Aging physiology responds far more favorably to small daily signals than to intermittent extremes. Perhaps most importantly, this approach reframes success. Success is no longer defined by rapid weight loss or exhaustion. It is defined by metabolic stability, preserved muscle, steady energy, and maintained independence. When those foundations are in place, fat loss often follows naturally, not because it was forced, but because the body no longer feels threatened. In the next section, we will discuss what results you can realistically expect from this routine, how long it typically takes to notice changes, and why patience matters more than intensity at this stage of life.
What results to expect, and why patience matters after 60. When starting any new health routine after 60, it is important to set expectations that are realistic, medically accurate, and protective of long-term progress. One of the most common reasons older adults abandon effective strategies is not because they do not work, but because they do not work fast enough to satisfy expectations shaped by younger body metabolism. This morning routine is not designed to produce dramatic changes in days. It is designed to stabilize biology first, because without stability, improvement cannot last. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, the earliest changes most people notice are not on the scale, they are internal. Morning energy often becomes steadier, blood sugar swings feel less dramatic, cravings later in the day begin to soften. Many people report that they feel less driven to snack at night or overeat at dinner, even though they are not actively restricting food. This is a sign that cortisol rhythm and appetite signaling are improving. By weeks 3 to 6, more functional changes often appear. Standing up from chairs feels easier. Daily movement requires less effort. Balance feels more reliable. Fatigue after routine activity decreases. These changes reflect improved muscle activation and better metabolic efficiency, not willpower. Around this time, some people begin to notice slow but meaningful changes in body composition. Clothes may fit differently. Abdominal tightness may lessen. Importantly, this can happen even if body weight changes very little. This is a critical point. After 60, body composition matters far more than scale weight. Preserving or rebuilding muscle while gradually releasing fat is the goal, not rapid weight loss. Fat loss, when it occurs, is usually gradual. This is intentional. Rapid weight loss in older adults almost always includes muscle loss, which undermines metabolism and independence. A slower pace indicates that muscle is being protected. Another important result is improved resilience. Many people find that they recover more quickly from poor sleep, travel, illness, or missed routines. This reflects improved metabolic reserve. The body becomes more adaptable when it is no longer operating in a constant state of perceived threat. Patience is essential because aging physiology adapts through consistency, not intensity. The body must repeatedly receive the same calm, nourishing, supportive signals to trust that conditions have changed. When it does, it gradually loosens its grip on stored energy and reduces muscle breakdown. From a medical standpoint, this is exactly what we want. Stability first, repair second, optimization last. It is also important to understand that results are cumulative. Each morning you repeat this routine, you reinforce the message that energy is available, stress is manageable, and muscle is needed. Missed days do not undo progress. What matters is returning to the routine without punishment or overcorrection. This approach is not about perfection, it is about alignment. When expectations are aligned with biology, frustration decreases, confidence increases, and progress becomes sustainable.
In the next and final section, I will bring all of this together and explain why this routine is not just about metabolism or fat loss, but about preserving strength, independence, and quality of life for years to come. Why this routine protects independence, not just metabolism.
As we come to the end of this discussion, it is important to step back and understand what this morning routine truly represents. It is not a weight loss trick. It is not a productivity hack. And it is not a way to chase youth. From a medical standpoint, it is a strategy to protect independence, which is the most valuable health outcome after 60. Loss of independence rarely happens suddenly. It happens gradually, through small declines in strength, balance, energy, and recovery that accumulate over time. Muscle weakens, fatigue increases, blood sugar becomes harder to control, falls become more likely, recovery from illness takes longer. Eventually, daily tasks that once felt automatic begin to require effort, assistance, or avoidance. This routine exists to interrupt that trajectory early. By lowering stress in the morning, you protect the nervous system from chronic overactivation. This reduces unnecessary cortisol exposure, which is one of the most powerful drivers of muscle loss, fat storage, and metabolic instability in older adults. By providing adequate protein early in the day, you protect muscle tissue. Muscle is not just for movement. It stabilizes joints, protects bones, regulates blood sugar, and supports immune function. Preserving muscle is one of the strongest predictors of remaining independent as you age. By activating muscle briefly and intentionally, you protect neuromuscular coordination. Balance improves. Reaction time improves. Confidence in movement improves. These factors directly reduce fall risk, which is one of the leading causes of hospitalization and loss of independence in people over 60. Together, these signals tell the body something critical. You are not declining. You are adapting. This matters, because aging bodies respond differently than younger ones. They do not respond well to punishment. They respond to reassurance. When the body feels safe, nourished, and capable, it behaves differently. Energy is used more efficiently. Muscle is preserved. Fat becomes accessible as fuel. Recovery improves. This is why this routine works without extremes. It respects biology instead of fighting it. I want to emphasize something very clearly. You are not late. You have not missed your opportunity. Aging does not eliminate the body's ability to respond. It changes the rules of engagement. When you follow the right rules, the body responds even in later decades. The goal is not perfection. The goal is consistency. 5 minutes each morning, repeated over time, is far more powerful than occasional bursts of effort followed by exhaustion or frustration. If there is one message I want you to take from this, it is this: metabolic health after 60 is inseparable from strength and independence. When you protect muscle, you protect mobility. When you protect mobility, you protect freedom. This routine is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters. And when you do, day after day, you are not just resetting your metabolism. You are actively shaping how you age.